Hi everyone. In this video I'm going to show you how to create a basic HTML web page with a reference to an external style sheet and a JavaScript file. So to start with, let's make us a folder to put our project in. I'm adding it to the desktop. I'm going to call it basic HTML. You can add this folder to anywhere on your computer, on your C drive, or any project folder you might have. It doesn't really matter, as long as we have a folder to store everything. So let's open the folder. First thing we're going to do is add our HTML file. Now I'm using Notepad. You can use any tool you want. Most people will use either Visual Studio or Visual Studio Code or Sublime or Brackets or Notepad+. There's quite a lot of tools out there. But I'm using Notepad just because I don't want to get wrapped up in the complexities of any one particular tool. This keeps it simple for everybody, and it also demonstrates just how easy it is to create an HTML page using nothing more than a text editor. So we'll call this index.html. Let's open that and see what's in there. Okay, it's nothing there. We would expect that. Let's look at the page source. Once again, nothing there. So let's close that down. So let's start adding some markup so we can actually view something in this file and have it do something useful. So the first thing we'll do, we'll add our HTML tag, and then close that off. Now notice that to close the tag off, we put this / in the closing tag. That tells the browser that that's the end of that particular tag. We're going to have a head tag. Close that off too. Add our body tag and close that. Caps lock for some reason. And just so we've got something to look at, let's add an h1 tag, and we'll say hello HTML. Let's close that off too. So this is a nice well-formed HTML file. The browsers don't really care if you don't close the tags, but I think it's good practice. I think everybody should be doing that. Let's save it, and then let's open it in the browser. And then we can see hello HTML. Let's look at the source. There's our markup. If we take a look at our text file or our HTML file, you can see that's our markup. So everything looks good there. So let's close this down. So as I said earlier, we're going to add a reference to an external style sheet and an external JavaScript file. So let's open this up again to edit. So we're going to add the references in the head tag to the external sheets. But before we add any references, let's create our files. So back inside our basic HTML folder, this is the root folder for the web page. We're going to add two new folders. One for JavaScript. We'll call it JavaScript. You can call that JS or script. Anything you want really. There's no real convention, but people tend to choose one of those three. We're also going to add a styles folder. Again, call it CSS or style sheets, anything you want. But this convention works, but anything you choose would do the job too. So we'll start by adding our style sheet, I think. So we'll open up that folder. We're going to add a new text document again. I'm going to call this site.css, and I'm going to open this up to edit. We're going to add some really basic CSS. I think I want to add style to body. I could do star for everything. I just want to demonstrate that we've got an external style sheet and then it's doing what we expect it to do. So I'm just going to change the font family to Arial. I think it defaults to Times New Roman, and then we'll fall back to sans serif if there's no Arial font installed on the machine. I'm going to save that. Again, I'm not going to go into too much detail on the style sheet. I'll cover that in another video. Just suffice to say, this will change the font to Arial. So let's just test that actually happens. We'll go back to our web page. Let's open it. Ah, right, nothing. Oh, now why is that? Let's think. So we said we needed to add a reference to the style sheet. So let's do that. Otherwise, the browser has no idea that it's there. So inside of the head tag, we're going to add our reference. So when adding a reference to a style sheet, we add a link tag. And inside that, we need to use the rel attribute, which is the relationship, or short for relationship. So rel equals, and that's a style sheet. So we're telling it it's a style sheet. Then we need to add our href, which is the reference, or the hypertext reference. Href is an abbreviation of hypertext reference. And in there we're going to add the location of the file. So we stored it in styles, or style, and we called it site.css. If we close that now, and we open our page again, there we go, Arial, looks good. Let's look at our page source again. Now you can see we have a reference in here to site.css. If I click on that, we can see there's our style, and if I go back to the style folder and let's have a look at this, and we compare that to what we have in here, you can see that's our markup. So now we need to add our reference to our JavaScript file. So before we add our reference, let's create our JavaScript file. So we're going into our JavaScript folder, new text document. We're going to call this site.js, which is short for JavaScript. So this is now a JavaScript file. We'll edit that once again in Notepad. And in here we're going to create a very basic function. We'll call it main. Many programming languages use main as the entry point. If you use C or C#, you'll be creating a main function, and so it makes sense for me to do that here. You can call functions anything you want. It really doesn't matter. You can call it elephant or giraffe. It makes no difference as long as you have a reference to it in your actual markup. So for this, we're just going to do a simple alert, and we're going to do hello JavaScript. Save our file, close that down, and we'll go back to our web page. Let's open that up. Let's look at our source. Right, well, we haven't added that reference, have we? So we need to do that. So let's go back. Now, to create the reference to the JavaScript file, we need to add a script tag. And inside of that, we need to give it an attribute src, which is short for source. And here we type in, just like we did with the style sheet, we type in the location. So we're going to call it javascript/site.js. And now, we don't self-close a script tag. We always need to close that in the longer form. You can see that link is a self-closing tag, but with the script tag, we need to close it off with a separate tag. So we'll save that. Once again, let's open our HTML page, view page source. we can see our JavaScript file, and yes, that is our code. But nothing happened. So let's do something with that code. In here, we're going to add another script tag. Let's close it off. And this time we're going to actually invoke the main function. So this is a function invocation here, main. If we look at our JavaScript file, so again, open with Notepad. This is our JavaScript file. Let's look at our HTML file. So, in fact, let's tidy this up a bit. So when the browser runs, it reads from the top to the bottom. So the browser will read the HTML file from the top down. So the first thing it will do is it will load the style sheet, load the JavaScript file, then move into the body tag, finds hello world, h1 tag, renders that to the browser. Then it finds this new script tag. And the browser knows, this is script, something I need to do here. So in between the script, it knows to expect JavaScript. So this is telling it to invoke the main function. So which it does. So the main function is called here. It finds the main function inside of our site.js here. So it runs this main, and then it will give you the alert, hello JavaScript, and then will return from here and complete its execution and leave you with a web page that just says, well, you'll have the alert dialog box open, and you'll have hello HTML in the background. So let's do that now. And there we go. So hello JavaScript. Now actually it hasn't rendered the HTML. But when we click on this, we can see that hello HTML. And again, let's look at our page source, and we can see everything is as we expected it to be. And that's basically it. So I guess the question really is, why did we choose to do it this way? Why did I choose to show you this way of setting up a web page? Well, there's many tools online. You can go onto online resources and you can type in JavaScript. You can have it execute and viewed in the same web page as you do it even, which is a great way to learn JavaScript. But nobody's using that in the real world. If you want to create your own web page, you will need to add these external references. Of course, you don't necessarily need to add external references, because you can actually add all of your script inside of here or inside of here. So we could quite easily put our main function in here. Instead, we could remove this completely, and we could type in here function main, and we can do everything we need to do inside of here. Let's give this a different alert. We'll say alert, and we'll say internal JavaScript. And if I save this, there's no longer a reference to the external style JavaScript file. If I open this now, that didn't work. So let's take a quick look on what was wrong with that. So you can see here I've misspelled alert a lot. That won't do at all. So if we refresh our page, we now get internal JavaScript. So instead of reading the external JavaScript file, it read it here. Now, as I said, you can do as much as you like in here, but I think it's useful to have the external reference as we did earlier. Let's add that back. Now, let's see what happens now. Let's leave this reference in here. What we're going to find is we have two mains. So it's going to get confused because we have this main and this main. So we have two alerts. So let's see what happens. And we get an internal JavaScript. And the reason for that is, as I said earlier, the browser reads from the top to the bottom. So it's read this script here. But the last thing it read was this. So when it invokes main, it finds this one first. If I took this one out, let's refresh our page again, and it falls back to the hello JavaScript. So once more, keeping your JavaScript in a separate folder, in separate files, enables you to manage your code. It enables you to create libraries of code and all kinds of things, and it's a better way of organizing your HTML files. Hope you enjoyed this video. I will be posting more, but please try this out and see if this works for you.